Greetings everyone, welcome to ChessAdvancedd. This game was played in FIDE World Cup. With the black pieces, we have Pranav V facing off against Ala Eddine Boulrens. And yesterday, Pranav was able to get a win. And now he only needs to draw to be able to qualify for the second round. Let's see what he does with the black pieces. Here, just e4 was played by Ala. And now just going for e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to c4. We transpose into the Italian game. Knight to f6, d3 now, and just bishop to e7. Going for the main line, there's the two knights variation, and we have castles, knight to c3, and now just going for d6, a4, h6, and here just going for h3, not allowing the bishop to jump, but just knight to b4 in this position, just allowing the just jumping in without the bishop. And here we have knight to e2, trying to remaneuver knights, and immediate c5 in this position, trying to push those pawns. And here you could go for this line with c3, just pushing the knight back because the knight is very oddly placed there. And after knight to c6, you play bishop to d2, just develop the bishop. d5, yes, you can play d5 in this position because you are very decently protecting that pawn. And after e captures, knight captures, you go for rook to e1, bishop to e6, and after knight to g3, here just queen to c7. And the game goes on. You have some central influence. Yes, there is some pressure towards there, but the queen and the knight is doing a very fine job, and somewhere along the line the bishop can come to f6. Your position should be fine. But here after c5, knight to g3 was played, and now just comes knight to c6, and here just rook to e1, bishop to e6 now, and just bishop captures, f captures, and here just c3. Finally going for that move, but you know, a lot later. Here queen to c7, d4, immediately opening up the center and also threatening to just, you know, bust open the center and trying to just create some lines in this position to be able to try. But you don't have your rooks connected. The bishop needs to go somewhere, and maybe it would have been better if you had just developed the bishop early on, you know, rather than just opening the center, which will allow more trades to happen. And Pranav jumps at the chance, and he goes for c caps on d4. We have c captures, e captures, and now just knight captures, queen captures. All of these trades are only helping Pranav because more trades happen, the more likely that you get a draw in this position. Here queen to c5 was played. Queen to c5, if actually Pranav had gone for this, here after queen to d1, you just play d5, e captures, more trades, and after this knight to e4, you just play queen to a5, bishop to d2, attacking the queen, bishop to b4, and here after rook to e2, the game goes on. You could trade this. You could also go for rook a to c8, and your position would be absolutely amazing. Trading is also fine. I mean, trading would most likely lead to, if you don't capture from the rook, if you capture from the queen, then you can just trade the queens as well, and the position would still be a draw, and that's a great result for Pranav. But here after queen caps on d4, d5 was played, and now just comes this bishop to e3, and we have d caps on e4, knight captures, and just knight to d5, not allowing more trades to happen. And here just rook a to c1, we have queen to d7, queen to d1, and rook a to d8. Now just doubling up very decently towards the d file, taking control of the d file. So you're gonna have to try on something because, you know, the position, it's just moved 21 and you've traded most of the pieces. If you're going into an endgame, make sure at least you have some favorable chances, because only favorable thing for Eddine in this position is that you have 3 pawn islands, and on the other hand, as you look at white's position, you have 2 pawn islands. So other than that, you don't have much, and if you want to actually convert this to a win, you would have to grind your way out of it, and Pranav is definitely not going to let that happen. Here queen to g4 was played by Eddine, and here just king to h7. But you could have also gone for this knight caps on e3, just trade, you know, get the bishop out of here, and after this rook captures, king to h8, you just play rook e to c3, just taking control over the c file. You have control over the entirety of the d file, and white has control over the c file, and you just play queen caps on e4, just grab that pawn, and after rook to c7, here just queen to b4, just defending that. And it seems very odd because, you know, if the queen gets attacked, you don't have that many squares to be able to defend the bishop, so you need to be careful. Let's say you play rook 1 to c4, which seems like a decent way to go, but you do have this check, so you can give that. And after king to h2, you play bishop to f6, and after this knight caps on f6, just queen to e5 first. And after this check, only now once the king will move, you'll grab the pawn, grab the knight with the queen, and then your pawn structure doesn't get ruined, or you don't even have to capture it from the rook. So, you know, the position will be safe, and also you will be keeping a very nice eye on the checkmate thread that is being posed. So after queen to g4, king to h7 was played. Not going for all of this, but you can see the engine evaluation shifting a little bit in Eddine's favor, and he's going to have to find a move. The only move in this position is actually rook e to d1 that you're supposed to find in this position to be able to just put some pressure so that the knight doesn't move, and you will be able to have a decent game. But hey, just bishop to d4 was played with the idea that, you know, you are threatening to going for the checkmate. But hey, just bishop to b4, not worrying about it, opens up, and now you are defending a bit decently. Here bishop to c3, now we have bishop captures, knight captures. I don't know why he allowed this trade. It is a very very weird to liquidate in this position, because you have to understand that your position was well decent with the bishop actually eyeing this. Why would you ask for a trade in the midst of an attack while your queen is very active and your rooks are well a little bit passive? They were supposed to be in with the rook left, but I mean, you are in a must-win situation. Why are you just going for a draw? Hey, just queen to f7 was paid, and now you are threatening to pick up that, so you need to be a little bit careful. Here queen caps on e6, just grabbing a pawn, but hey, you missed the idea, because now you can go for this queen caps on f2, and Pranav immediately goes for that. King to h1, and just now rook d to e8. We have queen caps on e8. He sacrifices the queen for the two rooks. Rook captures, and queen caps on b2 was paid. But the thing is that, hey, this position unfortunately is not as good as you would hope it to be, and now that queen captures was the only move, and he basically crawled right into that one. I told you the bishop trade was not supposed, that's something that's supposed to happen, but he allowed it, and now, well, this is the situation. Here just knight to e2 was paid, and if you go for queen to a3, you're just completely winning, because here after rook to e4, now you play this a6, king to h2, queen to d6 check, and after king to h1, just play knight to f6. All your pieces are very decently coordinated, your pawn structure is decent, your king is safe, you don't have to worry about the two rooks, and on the other hand, you are down a pawn somewhere along the line. I'm going to push those pawns, maybe have a trade, and just push it all the way, and my position would be completely winning, with the knight being on f6 doing a very fine job of guarding against everything. And even after that, if I trade the queens for the two rooks, I'll have an outside passer, and even a draw is a great result for me, so I don't have to worry about anything. Rook to e3, you play a5, your position is absolutely fine. But after knight to e2, hey, queen to d2 was paid, and now just comes rook to d8, queen to g5, and hey, just going for rook to d7. So if knight moves, you will have to face that, so you need to be a little bit careful. But hey, knight to e3 nonetheless, because you are actually threatening to go for the mate. Hey, rook to g1 defending, but just queen to e5, and now just knight to d4, queen to e4, now centralizing the queen. The rook cannot move, this rook cannot move, this knight doesn't have that many squares, so it's a very passive position. But well, this is what you brought it upon yourself. I'm sorry if I have to just be a little bit brutal here. You were not supposed to trade the bishops, you allowed the trade, and you forced yourself into actually going for two rooks against the queen. Your pieces are not at all coordinated. As you can see, one is just there protecting the king from getting checkmated, one is here doing absolutely nothing. Knight cannot get into the game, you're forced to actually just save this. It's not a position you want to have. Hey, knight to f3 was paid, queen to c6, and now just comes rook to f7, a5, and here in this position rook to e7, maybe you survive. You have to move, you can only move this rook, you have to understand that. And knight to d5, now after rook to f7, you just play b6, even that is winning. Rook to d1, you play queen to g6, attacking the rook, but hey, just knight to e5, attacking the queen and also defending the rook. Queen to e6, attacking both these pieces, but hey, just rook to e1, and after knight to f6, you play rook to c7, and your position should be, well, at least playable, maybe to a draw. But here after a5, rook to e1 was played, and rook to e1 is not at all a good move, and in this position there is only one move that wins the game for Pranav. So I'm gonna ask you to pause the video, try and find out this only move in this position which wins the game right on the spot. Have at it. The only hint I can give you is we saw that move in the previous line. So congratulations to everyone who's able to find this move. The move is queen to g6. Yes, this and this, and that's the idea, because now here in this position you don't have anything. So here just rook captures on g7 was played, queen captures, and rook captures on e3. So just grabbing that knight, now you have two pieces for the queen, and it's not at all going to be sufficient. If you just remove these pawns from the equation, then maybe you can say that you would have some chances to be able to draw this game, and that would be very minute chances, but that's just not going to happen. Now here queen to a1 check, and now just comes rook to e1, queen caps on a4, rook to e7 check, king to g8, rook caps on b7, and here just queen to a1 check again, king to h2, and just a4. All you have to do is just push the pawn somewhere along the line. You're going to have to sack the knight or the rook for that pawn, and after that you have no escape from this situation, and you have no fortress, unfortunately, as well. If you had like one more rook or one more piece, maybe you could try, but other than that you have nothing here. Rook to b4, just a3. It's all a matter of conversion now. Rook to g4 checking to h7, rook to g3, a2 now, knight to d2, and just queen to e5 in this position, knight to b3, and queen to f4, and here just going for h4, but now just queen caps on h4 with the check. Okay, rook to h3, queen to f4 check, king to h1, king to g6 was played, and now just comes rook to f3, and after queen to d6, here in this position just king to g1 was played, king to g5, and here just king to f1, trying to go over to the other side, but it's not going to work out, because all I have to do is just maybe place the queen on the dark square, promote, and even then it's completely winning. Here just king to g4 was played, king to g1, queen to d1 check, and after this king to f2, h5, rook to e3, and just king to f5. I don't even have to promote here, and to lose the pass pawn, all I have to do is somewhere along the line find a decent check, get the king very active, get those pawns very active, and yeah, this is completely winning. And Pranav is doing it spectacularly and splendidly well. Here king to g3, just h4 check, and king to f2 was played. The trouble is you cannot capture. If you capture here, then you know what is coming in this position. I hope you can all see it. So that obviously you cannot do, but other than that, here, I mean, this position is long lost even before that checkmate. Here king to f2, king to f4 check, king to f4 was played, and now just comes rook to s3, king to e5, rook to e3 check, king to d5, and now just comes rook to c3. And in this position here, a1 queen was played, and here in this position with the two queens on the board, his opponent Ala Eddine Boulrens resigned the game, and Pranav got the spectacular victory, and with that he got 2-0, and he's also moving to the next round. So we'll be excited to see how he performs there. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll be coming back with some of these amazing games, so stay tuned to the channel, stay updated, and I'll be seeing you guys very soon. Thank you very much for watching.